This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
All right, so I'm just going to repeat things out loud. A 2'4" by 6'8", 4 1/4 inch thick door, thinking 4.5 by 8 wide throws because of the thickness. Okay, so I would like, in terms of a pivot, and it may not work, but a pivot is going to be the smartest way mechanically to hang that door. So I would like, because it's not very heavy, the part number would be 0147. And when you search that, it'll be the first item that comes up.
Okay, on your website.
Yeah. Now, because there's a pivot top and bottom, almost all the weight is borne by that bottom pivot. That thing's rated for 600 pounds. There's also a lighter duty one, which is the 0117. It's only about $105 less, but I would, because of the thickness and because of the 3/4 inch offset, I would prefer a higher rated one, because what you'd ideally want to do is to have that bottom arm tucked under the center of the door. Well, you won't be doing that. You'll be mortising it into the edge of some of your construction. So that's an idea. But also what I would consider would be sauce hinges, concealed hinges, and not have to see any of this. The issue is...
Yeah. So, do you have an email? I could send you something real quick.
Yeah.
I can send you a CAD plan of the door just so you get an idea of why I need this throw hinge or this wide throw hinge.
Yeah. My email's on the website. It's the sales email that's there.
Okay. Let's see here. I guess in the meantime, my other question is, I'm looking at a door closure or a spring closure, and that 218 IC or 220 IC.
Oh, you need it to be self-closing. Okay, that's a different animal.
Is, for the weight of what we're talking about, you think one or two of those in the 218 or 220 is more appropriate?
I might be tempted to try one if it was me and my job, I would put two. If I was the owner who didn't want to spend any money, I might say, well, you're the owner, so I'm advocating on your behalf. Try one. If it doesn't work, add a second one. But me right out of the gate would be two. The reason is I want as much stored energy, residual energy, at the crucial last 15 degrees of close. It's a spring. Once it's done, it's done. And you need the torque, the tugboat pulling power at the very last few inches of close. So that's why I would do two. Now, back in the old days when Mario Tricosi was building everywhere, they were doing 3080 doors on their salon suites with 4 sauce 218s, and one of them was an IC, and that always worked. Or at least I never heard that it didn't work.
What does IC stand for?
Invisible closer.
Okay, that's what I assumed. All right. Okay. Yeah, this is so my main concern too is just the fact of this is going to be a door that's kind of frequented, people coming out to cool down, and I don't want this heavy door to swing out and rip the hinges at any point. So the closure is more so to prevent it from opening past like 100 degrees.
Do you need it to self-close or just limit the degree of opening?
I'm more so limiting the degree of opening.
Okay. So definitely don't use any closer. Use an overhead concealed stop. It's basically a slide track principle it's specifically meant to do one thing in the world: prevent the door from going further than you want it to go. Okay.
So, yeah, I think I would have done that. I should have kind of plan better for these in my design. Half the door's already built, so I'm trying to go back and figure out the best way to do this without kind of running into any nails already put in siding and finishes.
You can also surface mount stuff. It doesn't have to be mortised.
Yeah. I was looking for something a little more slick than that.
Well, have a couple of extra router bits.
Yeah, you think those springs are fine? Those spring closures?
It wouldn't be how I would design it, and in no way would I use it as a dead stop, because it's going to damage something. But you know, if you try to push it further, it'll let you know to stop, but it's not a dead stop. You know, in a low volume adult use residential application, yeah, you'll never even know. But you're spending more money material wise than you would otherwise. Well, probably not, but it's just not. You would have points taken off on the big test if that's what you were doing.
So maybe 2 of those 220s, if it's more so for the preventing it swinging too far open.
Because I know how those hinges work, I can't actually. What degree do you want it to stop at?
No more than 110, I'd say.
This isn't going to work. A sauce is going to naturally go to 180. So the way that you set the tension is you turn a disc, and it pre-compresses the spring, but there's nothing that dead stops it. So the only dead stopping you would be doing no dead stopping. The only slowing down you would be doing by pre-compressing that spring to the point where when you got it to 110, you're like, wow, I really have to push that hard. So I would not advise you to proceed by using that IC as a means by which to dead stop the door.
Okay, good to know. Okay, so for these pivot hinges then, one goes in the jamb, one goes in the header, the top. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to email you a diagram or a plan, and maybe you can either give me a call back if you can, or just reply to the email.
Yeah. I'd enjoy looking at it.
Yeah. Okay. And then for the 4.5 by 8 inch hinges, you said a black, you could get it steel black would work, or you just sell stainless steel ones.
Yeah, you wouldn't get powder, you wouldn't get black over stainless.
You'd say go with stainless over the black one?
It really depends. If the cost is less important than the finish, if non-ferrous is more important than cost, then I would probably go with stainless. But at the end of the day, your wood is going to rot. You know, something else is going to go. Is there any overhang? Is there any shielding of this hardware from direct exposure?
Yeah, there's a soffit, and the wood is sealed with the pine tar, and it's cedar, so I'm not really worried about the wood rotting anytime in the next 40 years, at least in the door. So that's safe. So in that regard, if that plays into it at all.
If I could hide the hardware, I would, to solve that problem. And if I couldn't, I would just have to make a decision. You know,
sure. Stainless
base material or steel base with a black color, black plating over it. If it was me and black was the color, I would put steel based as a last resort. I wouldn't mix up my colors only for that reason, because when you see the cost of a 4.5 by 8 solid stainless versus a steel plated hinge, you could buy extra hinges and have them in shelf stock.
You're saying black is more expensive?
No, black is far less expensive than solid stainless.
Okay, sure.
And you could have them powder coated. I mean, it's possible. You just got to find the right powder coater, because those guys, the guys that I've got exposure to, they don't like dealing with small parts. They want to do 10-foot long railings.
Okay. And is your email sales at AB Supply or tech sales?
Either one. They both come to me.
Cool. I'm sending you a drawing right now. Okay, good to know. Well, thanks for your help. I don't know if you're at a computer or you just want to maybe get back to me.
Getting back to you would be the way to go.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot for your help.
Oh, you bet, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yep. Yeah, bye.
If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it.
AB Supply, this is Richard.
Hi, Richard. This is Soren Arnovic. I had talked to you last Friday about some hinges on a sauna door.
Yes, you sent me a cross-section. Yes, sir.
Yes, I did. So I don't know if you had a chance to look at that at all. You had recommended some pivot hinges, and the reason those don't work for a door like this, at least the ones that you sent me, were the structure of the door is too far set back from where the pivot is on the hinge, and I need to reach back farther than that, about 3 inches in or so. Just curious if you had any other recommendations on a hinge that might work. Because right now I'm just going with 4.5 by 8 inch ball bearing hinges.
Yeah, so let's take a look at that. So I'm looking at your cross section, and yeah, obviously the Texases, the sauces of the world, are not a good choice. Are not a choice.
And a center hung pivot hinge, I thought I had came across something that would work, but the door is so thick that pivot, the door, it doesn't have a clearance on the hinge side.
Well, let's talk about that since I've studied this in detail.
Sure.
Rotating objects in AutoCAD. I had a client,
right.
I mean, literally doing the same thing that you're doing, and we did a pivot for him, and it got to a point where I needed to video me telling him where the vertical axis of pivoting was to achieve proper clearance based on the roundover bit he had. He didn't have a 2-inch, 1 3/4 radius roundover, which would have looked awful anyway. So if you think about the thickness of your door, 4 1/4, don't put that center hung pivot at 2 1/8 from the face of the door to the center. Put it out at whatever, 7/8 of an inch, whatever you need off the pole side. While you'll still need to radius it, you're not going to need to radius it very much. And I would need to pop it into AutoCAD to tell you what that all is. But if you suck that thing way out, you'd be okay. Don't put it in the center of the thickness of the door. I don't like the idea because it destroys the look. You're going to have it's not radius, it's bull nose. You'll have a bull nose on the pivot style pole side, but then, of course, you'd have to pretty heavily bevel your latch side to a point where hardware isn't going to fit. Like a 5 by 12, 5 by 10 hinges, your 3-degree bevel still on paper works. You go to 5 by 12, it ain't working. You got to increase that angle.
And what is a 5 by 12 hinge? What do you mean?
Oh yeah, we stock some. Yeah. I stock 5 by 10, 5 by 12s. So when I saw your cross section, I really thought to myself, either offset pivots with either a custom arm to get the load, to get the arm underneath the center of the load, or also known as where the construction of the door is adequate to accept the mortising for the arm. I think that is unnecessary because at the end of the day, your hinge is not an awful idea because your door weight's not excessive, like 200, 400, 600 pounds.
Right.
The only modification I would make to so I would stick with the width of the hinge that you've decided is best. The only thing I would do, and I've seen it done, and I've experienced the problem, is I would drill and countersink into the hinge leads.
Right. Versus
half
what?
of the Closer to the vertical axis of pivot, because the weight of the door is going to make that thing want to sag away and open up the swag, the line, the gap between the two hinge leaves. So I would personally drill and countersink at least one hole closer to the hinge barrel to really make that hinge flat to the edge of it, period. And I would make the door square edge. I wouldn't bevel it, because the swag on those hinge leaves is technically meant for, it's not technically, it's meant for square edge doors. You can get away with using hinge leaves that are parallel when the hinge is in the closed position on normal thickness doors, but when you make that the size you're gonna accentuate the fact that the hinge leaf isn't going to sit flat if you've got a beveled edge, and it's not going to be right because you've got such an extreme thickness on the door. Your door is extremely thick. So you either are going to order wide throws made for bevel, or you're going to make sure that your hinge style is square edge. Add a couple of screws, as close to the outside as possible, even if they're short ones. And I think that you're really as right as rain.
And by square edge, you just mean so if you're looking at a hinge has both leaves open, all four corners are square versus being beveled, you're saying?
No. If you built in your mind's eye, envision your door and it's standing there. It's not hung, but it's standing there, or laying on your sawhorses. Put a combination square on the style of the door. As long as that does not have any sort of relief or bevel to it, I think that you're... Yeah, right. Just make it a 0-degree bevel, or absolute 90-degree from face of door to style, and I think you're in great shape.
Okay, so you're saying that with the 4.5 by 8 inch hinge that I'm looking at using right now, drill an extra hole closer to the pivot, the actual pin of the hinge, and then into the jamb / door.
Yep, on both sides, because the weight of the I've installed myself. My friend, very close family friend, has an arch top opening. So it's arch top. So immediately you're thinking, okay, well, I can't get a hanging device close to the top of the door. And it turns out, I may have mentioned, 70% of the weight of the door is borne by that top hinge. So his problem was arch top, and it was deeply inset into the wall, let's say a 10-inch thick wall, but he had 3 or 4 inches of reveal where the jamb was set in. He could only get his door open to like 70 degree, and it was hitting the exterior face of the wall. So I come in with wide throw hinges to get him a greater degree of opening. Well, the problem that I also created was, because the door now had a tendency to sag towards the lock side because of the mounting point and the vertical axis of pivoting, I had to increase my gap on the lock side to account for that. Very inelegant. Whereas an offset floor-mounted pivot or jam-mounted pivot, and then a couple of intermediate load-bearing pivots would have hung the door very well. You could do all that 1.5 inch offset, and you would have had to have lived with your degree of opening at that point. He's going to replace it all at some point, but an arch top door, style and rail, big money, low on the priority list.
So just to confirm, would I do that for each hinge, just one hole? So if I have 3 hinges, do you think I guess 2 hinges per hole if you're going either side, both jam and door side? So 1 on the top, or 2 on the top, 2 in the middle, 2 on the bottom, or just on the top is it important to reinforce?
My opinion would be I would personally do the top only, and then I would learn from the results. I would observe, and then I would go further as needed.
Okay. And
what you definitely want, though, are ball bearing hinges.
Sorry?
You definitely want ball bearing hinges.
Yep. Okay. That's what we were planning on after reading just about the weight. Okay. So no kind of distance from previous holes that are in the hinge, just a little bit closer, maybe 1 inch or so towards the pin.
I would. You're obviously your drawing is going to be very accurate to what will be built, but not spot on. At least mine never are.
Sure.
And I would just make that decision. I'd want it out there to keep that hinge as tight to everything as possible.
Okay. I guess that was my other question too, is if you're looking at the pin in relation to where the trim on the door and on the jamb side is, how close should that pin be to touching those? Because I've seen wide throw hinges that are offset 2 or 3 inches from the actual jamb. And in my drawing, it's showing pretty much touching. Is that kind of what I want to go for?
I think so. In my experience, you want the vertical axis of pivoting as close to the center of the thickness of the door as possible. The further away you go, the less efficient the hinge can do its job. The gap, the sagging problem comes, the wear and tear because of how I don't know the proper mechanical engineering term, but when you get that door to 45 degree, and it's hanging out there further, it won't matter for the period of time that your client's door is under warranty with you, but it'll sure matter in 20 years.
Right. Okay, awesome. Thanks for the help. I guess one more question is, with a door like this and ball bearing hinges, I'm not sure how quickly it'll open or how much it'll swing out. I'm looking for some sort of door stop, I think I had mentioned before, and based on what I've already kind of installed, I could always take away the nails that would get in the way of a hidden door stop on top. Is there any other good kind of minimal door stops out there, prevent it from opening no more than 105, 90 degrees or so?
Well, we may have discussed overhead stops, which would be extremely. I'm sorry, sir. Say that again.
Concealed overhead stops.
You could do concealed, but as I look at your drawing, I'm thinking, as I had said before, I don't want to see any hardware ever, if I can. But in your case, it would be really easy to surface mount it. You've got plenty of room, and if the head detail is the same as your jamb detail, you have it in an architectural finish to match everything as much as possible, that's the way to go. Anything else that you're going to do to say 105 stop, you're putting something on the floor, and that's just, it's cheap, but it's the least elegant way to go. And you'd also have to have room to put it somewhere. I don't know what the rest of the opening looks like, but it sounds like I'm gonna bang my toe. Yeah,
it's on a deck for a sauna, so that's not ideal.
Yeah, definitely not. For me, it would be a Glenn Johnson or a ABH or et cetera. It would be a surface mount. I would probably go for medium duty. The ABH models, I would go medium duty. This is probably very adult use, probably not an Airbnb with 22-year-old party animals.
No.
ABH. Let me pull up a part number for you. So if you were to search on my website, ABH, Alpha Bravo Hotel, you'll find it. You'll find the manufacturer. And then you can click on any of those and then get to the manufacturer's page ultimately. Or you could just go to their website. That would be faster.
ABH concealed or ABH overhead stops.
Yeah, exactly. Let's take a look at their. I stopped trying to memorize part numbers a long time ago. I should say my brain stopped remembering part numbers a long time ago. So if it was me. The heavy duty I don't think is necessary because that's a bigger piece of hardware. I would like a medium duty surface mount. Concealed medium. Yeah, I would like their 3300A series or 3300 series would be, wait a minute, 3300A. No. Final answer, 4400 series. Surface mount medium duty, 4400. A actual part number for what you're doing, you got one of them there. I would be looking at a 2'3" 5/8". 2'3". Your part number is going to be like 4422. 4422 would be the ABH part number. You can then, you could order that as a 4422N, as in November. That will give you all stainless steel, non-ferrous components, even though it's on the opposite side, obviously. I think it's on the opposite side, is it?
Sorry, what do you?
Does the door swing out of the sauna or in?
It swings out, so it's to the outside, yeah.
Oh, so you want the 4422N, absolutely the N, as in November. And then you specify your fastener package, which would be AWS, all wood screws. And you're in great shape. Yeah, it's a piece of hardware that's on there, but so are those giant ladder poles that you have.
So 24-inch to 25-inch with hinges. So there's different sizes I'm seeing. There's an 18-inch, there's a 24-inch hinge. You think an 18-inch is fine?
No. You need the 4422. Without going into why you need that, you need the 4422. And the reason is because you have a door width that is specific. You must mate the order number to the door width. Your range is 4422.
Gotcha, okay. And then, does that include whether it's a friction, hold open, or a stop?
No. The 22 is stop only. You don't want friction.
Okay.
I can explain why you don't.
Right now. Yeah, I'm Google searching, and that was the first thing that popped up.
Yeah, so friction is this. Hopefully it's not soon, but the next time you're visiting someone in the hospital, go up to the bathroom door that's in the room. You'll notice that the door swings, but it doesn't swing freely. That's because there are friction holders on there. They're just meant to keep the door in the position that they're put in, but you can still move it. Not approved for use on fire doors. Hold open, obviously, you don't want that door held open. Process of the proper function for you is stop. I don't need a friction. I don't want a hold open. I want to stop.
Okay, awesome.
And, also at the end of the day, if it's adult used, like on the rare times that my wife and I are in Chicago and we stay at the Langham and we go into the spa area, there's no overhead stops on that stuff. Some people aren't slamming into those doors. So maybe you don't need the hardware, but if you suspect the door is going to hit something, yeah, you need the hardware.
Yeah, well, one of my reasons for, because I'm not sure how quickly they'll swing open based on, it will be adult use for the most part. And, my niece is, well, it's fine. I'm wondering if it swings open, if those two pieces of trim, if you're looking at that drawing still, will end up kind of crushing each other, or I guess the door will swing into the siding too much. But if that puts too much kind of torque on the hinges.
I'm looking at a plan view, so I don't know. Obviously you're going to be able to go to at least 120 degree, if not more. That will only template to 110. That's max. There's no overhead stops that go beyond 110, so you'll have to be able to live with 110 max.
Okay.
But that's plenty.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't see you're going to hit anything or crush anything.
Okay, cool. And then I guess my last question is, appreciate all your help. If I do have a stop in there, I've been shown these magnetic concealers, and I saw a video you showed online where you actually explained these heavy-duty magnets that I was thinking of putting in to the top of the jamb in the door. Do you think that's necessary with a door stop like this, or it's self-closing, no need for that? If the mortise is unlocked at the time and while we're using the sauna, if a stop's all we'll need.
Nothing here is self-closing.
Okay, gotcha. So just
that overhead stop is only a stop. If you need to get self-closing, we need to change the conversation completely.
Okay. Is there self-closing within this same kind of hardware style?
So the answers, you mean hanging device. A guy just ordered some hinges from us, wide throws, in fact, for a gate. Take your concept, cut it in half, call it a gate, right? He's like, hey, I need this self-closing. But he also ordered wide throws. They were 4.5 by 6s. And there are no spring hinges that are wide throw. I said to him, well, just use the spring hinge I have in stainless, the 4.5 by 4. He's like, well, that's not going to work. My hinges are 4.5 by 6. I'm like, listen, you know what a plumb bob is? Of course you do. Imagine in your mind's eye. Make sure the vertical axis of pivoting is consistent on that imaginary plumb bob, and you're good. So you could take your 4.5 by 8s. You could add 4.5 by 4 or 4.5 by 4 spring hinges. As long as that vertical axis of pivoting is kosher, you're fine. It works. If you don't want to, but at that point, you're probably going to add at least 2 spring hinges, would be my guess. At least, if not 3. So it's going to look pretty busy on that door.
Or one of those slots that I'd mentioned before. Do those work?
Say that again, sir?
Or do one of those sauces I think I talked about with you last Friday.
The IC sauces?
The sauces, yeah.
No, they're not going to work because you don't have the depth of jam to install that. You'd have to change the entire wall section to fit one, because those go back in, I don't know, 10 inches?
Oh, I thought
well, actually, forgive me. If you ran it into the door, you would have to have a lot of width to get the hinge installed to begin with, and then you'd have to change the thickness of your jam, the mortise that you have there on your reverse single rabbit frame, kind of. You'd have to rethink the jam profile. The jam section.
Could that not be mortised into the jam?
It is, but you don't have enough wood to get it in there. So if we look at the template for...
The spring goes into the door side, correct?
It can, and absolutely, it normally does. But still, if we look at the template for the 220 IC, the sauce 220, is there such a thing? Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
If we look at the template for that, you're going to see, in my site, if you type in 220 IC, click the first one, scroll down to template, you're going to see, the amount of chutzpah you're going to need to get that puppy installed. And that hinge, the depth, your your body depth, is a ritzy 1 63/64, also known as 2-inch between friends. So that's a lot to stuff in there on the jam.
But that could go into the jam and the stud, correct? I could mortise deep back in there.
Well, you would have to, number one, assuming that you're not dealing with 12-quarter lumber that you've planed down. But the question really is it would certainly be less than ideal to be mortising into 2 different pieces of wood with 2 different approaches of grain structure to each other. Should it work? Yeah, it should, but you're really going to need to think that through. And you could the point I'm trying to make is I could ask Sauce if they have a DWG file for the 220. I'm sure that they do. So you could probably pop that in there as well. So that's certainly possible. Only you can decide if that hinge is going to fit in there, because I don't necessarily have dimensions of everything else.
Sure. The actual jam, that piece of wood that's next to the stud, is 1 3/4 thick.
Oh, okay. So then the problem is going to be this. You see the piece of wood that's the style of the door. And if your door is 4 1/4 thick, let's just imagine that that's a solid piece of lumber that's 4 1/4, not thick, wide. Mm-hmm. What is the reveal from the face of the style to that horizontal member? So if you look at your hinge barrel, go up 1 inch and then go to the right 1/2 inch. What is that reveal dimension?
If I'm looking at the jam and then from the siding, the outside in, or am I looking at the hinge side to the stud in the framing?
Only the door. Look at your hinge barrel from your drawing and go up literally 3/4 inch where it makes that that 90-degree corner on the piece of lumber that's now the vertical style of your door, you've got a small dimension to the right there where your horizontal member of your door is inset. How much is it? How much is it inset there?
Okay, it is about 3/8.
Okay, so that's no bueno, and that's because if you go back to the website to the SOS 220, they are not giving us on that drawing the E dimension. Okay, that's because they're telling us to look at the 220. You got to search for a SOS 220, just a regular non-IC hinge. And if you search SOS 220 and scroll down, actually, yeah, that would be fine. To like the SOS 220 AS part numbers. All that's telling us is that it's a different base material. And then pull up the template. You'll see there's a pesky E dimension. And that E dimension is 9/32. So it's not going to work unless you reduce the inset to a 1/4 inch. And even then, no, it would have to be, you'd have to make it flush for it to really work.
Okay. I think I'm following.
Well, actually, on any of the pages that you're looking at, where you found the template, there's a link there called clearance detail, and that really illustrates the E dimension in the lower right-hand quadrant of the clearance detail page. It's literally called E. If you go bigger than that, then your door's gonna not, there's going to be conflict between the face of the door and the face of the jamb. That's the downside with the SOS product line.
Okay.
Tectus has a product that will account for a greater E dimension. Peace and love to all my Tectus clients. I think it's unnecessarily expensive. Well, I want to be able to adjust it. Well, just read the tape measure right. Make sure where you cut is right. I mean, and I don't mean that disparagingly. I just mean if you make a living doing this, you're just going to mortise it correctly because, you'll get good at it eventually. So that would be my concern. You'd have to change your design because of that E dimension. But if you did, I'd love it because you're not going to have hardware that's seam, and you're going to have something that'll swing it really nice. Now, the one thing that people end up calling me like 2 months from now saying, hey, I need to weather strip this thing. And I say, why didn't you and I were on the phone so long we should have been legally married. Why didn't we talk about it then? So before you build anything, if you're going to put any gasket on this, think about that now so you can do your whatever needs to be done.
A gasket in the door?
Well, if you might want to have some sort of gasketing to seal the door like you would if it was an exterior door or a door that was wanting to keep 104 degrees on the inside, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So, it obviously it doesn't matter to me in the sense of, that's a fire rated door. You can't do that. You might want to think about it. If you were to search my site for 97AS, Alpha Sierra, that would give you an idea of something that you could mortise, something that has an adjustable, or AP, 97AP, or AS, an adjustable sort of gasketing that you might say, yeah, you know what, I'm glad he said that. I do actually want to have something on the edge of these doors or something on the jamb. Just like when you go into a hotel, there's gasketing on those hotel doors, whether it be for smoke or sound. There's always something there, and it's not for loss of temperature.
Right.
So you might, all I'm saying is before you really get to the point where this is a done deal, because whatever you put there is going to be self-adhesive, and it's not going to be, you'd be like, I wish I would have thought about that earlier.
Sure.
Hey, you know what? Okay. Also, I don't know if we've talked about it, but you should search on my site the word precision lock. And what you'll find is a heavy-duty magnet that you'll mortise into the door and the jamb. And you can put a couple of them on there. That will silently allow you to keep the door in the held closed position, because you're going to have that problem. Because nothing is, well, unless you have a closing device, nothing is drawing that door tight to the face of the stop.
Oh, yeah. Someone showed me that a while back, and I saw your video on that online, too.
Yeah.
About doing that for sure.
Yeah. So if you're going to put gasketing there, you know, those HD or XHDs, whatever they are, they may be okay, but if you put some gasketing there that the door is going to have to touch and make contact with, you might need to think about, how am I going to put a little bit of pounds of force in the closing direction to keep that door as tight as realistically possible to the face of the gasketing. Those magnets, they're not meant really, I've never seen them really used for like pushing it against the Q-line and exterior frame, but you're going to want the door to stay in that position.
Yeah. So you think a couple of those heavy-duty hinges are just kind of one near the top?
You know, I've if it was me, only given the I would probably be looking at two, would be my guess. Only because of the nature of what it actually is. Having said that, I am also, all the projects I do almost always have a really long horizon for time. So if it was me personally, I would put one in and I would test it. And if it didn't work, because I've accounted for that, it's not like I've got a customer with incurring daily damages on a job. Yeah. So I'd be tempted to try one.
Okay. So maybe a stop with some magnetic latches is probably all I'm looking for then, in terms of, I guess I don't need a spring closure. It might be nice, but again, it could be something I do post installation to see.
Yeah. And you could also use a roller latch, which is what you may have been going for with your lines there to represent that. The problem with the roller latch idea is, based on where you would position it, you're going to need an extended lip strike. Otherwise, the nylon roller is going to hit the jamb. Not ideal. Right. So, you could run into needing a $150 custom strike because of that. Those magnets don't care.
Right.
So, worth a thought. Hope you're taking pictures along the way. I'd love to see them. 6 months from now, send me photos, please.
For sure. Well, I appreciate your help. I got to get going here, but thanks for all your time.
Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.